The resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. On Monday, jubilation erupted on the streets of Dhaka, the Bangladeshi capital, as Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina abruptly resigned and fled the country by helicopter. Her departure marked the end of her 15-year rule, characterized by stifling civil freedoms and the use of security forces to suppress dissent. Critics and human rights groups have long accused her administration of authoritarian practices, from peaceful protests to nationwide unrest. What began as peaceful student protests against the government's quota system quickly escalated into a nationwide movement to force Hasina out. The quota system reserved 30% of civil service posts for relatives of veterans who fought in Bangladesh's War of Independence from Pakistan in 1971. Many of the country's political elite, including Hasina herself, are connected to that generation. Protesters argued that the quota system was discriminatory and favored supporters of Hasina's ruling Awami League Party. High unemployment and growing anger. Driving the anger behind the protests was the high unemployment rate, particularly among young people. Frustration with the lack of job opportunities fueled the demonstrations, leading to clashes with government forces. In response, Hasina blamed the opposition for the violence and imposed internet blocks and an indefinite curfew across the country. The aftermath, an interim government and Nobel laureate's return. Following Hasina's resignation, Bangladesh's army chief, General Waqar-Uzzaman, announced that the military would form an interim government. However, student protest leaders called for Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus to lead the temporary administration. Yunus, founder of the Yunus Center think tank, has agreed to return to Bangladesh to fulfill this role. Meanwhile, the country's main opposition party has pledged its full support to the student protesters. A new era dawns. As the dust settles, Bangladesh stands at a crossroads. The departure of the world's longest-serving female head of government opens up possibilities for change. The Gen Z revolution has reshaped the nation's political landscape, and citizens eagerly await the next steps in their journey toward a more inclusive and accountable governance.